Good morning. I'd like to call the Lyon County Board of County Commissioners to order. Today is Thursday, March 19th, 2026. It's 9:00 a.m. Board of County Commissioners convene as other boards. Members of the Board of County Commissioners also serve as the Liquor Board, Central Lyon Vector Control District Board, Mason Valley Mosquito Abatement District Board, Walker River Weed Control District Board, Willow Creek General Improvement District Board, the Silver Springs General Improvement District Board, and during this meeting may convene as any of those boards as indicated on this or a separately posted agenda. All commissioners are present and in chambers. The invocation is going to be given by Thomas Walborn of Sweetwater Christian Fellowship. And please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Commissioner Hockaday. Morning. Morning.
Let us be together in prayer. Dear Lord, we come here today with heavy hearts. We come as a nation at war, but the biggest war is not on some foreign shore. The biggest war that we are fighting is an eternal war. You have told us that a nation divided cannot stand, and Lord, our nation is deeply divided. Our nation is spiritually bankrupt and is in need of you now more than ever. It will take something much greater than any man or any political party to heal our nation. So we call upon you this very moment to send your Holy Spirit to cover our nation, to enter this chamber, and to enter each and every one of our hearts here this morning. I ask that you give these commissioners the wisdom of Solomon as they go about in the decisions in front of them today. I ask that you give those present today peace, knowing that you are truly the one in charge, even though that some of the decisions might not align with our own thoughts. I ask for protection for all of our first responders and for those troops that are deployed abroad. Lord, we need you right now. Come, Jesus, come. Thank you, God. And it's in your holy name that we will give you all glory and praise. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God.
This brings us to public participation. No action will be taken on any item until it is properly agendized. It is anticipated that public participation will be held at this time, though it may be returned to at any time during the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion on each agenda item, but before the board takes any action. Do we have any public comment in the room?
Jimmy Shamble. And once again, I'm here asking you to do something about the speeding and reckless driving on Osborne Lane before something bad happens.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
Good morning, y'all. I took a drive through the valley. I took a drive around the valley and I went down Snyder Lane and Osborne Lane. And it's amazing that individuals can come up here and do public comment, but nobody wants to agendize that. Nobody at the end of a meeting or end of 3 meetings say, hey, let's put this on the agenda in the future. Public comment. This is an issue. I drove down Osborne Lane and it was not an enjoyable drive with that traffic coming at me, passing me. I was scared spitless. And I think you need to take Mr. DeChambeau's request. I think some old sheriff's cars could be put out there, you know, the ones that aren't running, and just set them there out on the road, you know, the ones that don't run, and put a sign, you know, get a box and see how fast they're going and what that traffic is. I don't think it's unreasonable that, you know, you listen to public comment, and if you think there's some validity to it, and obviously there is, you guys should make an emotion to put that on the agenda in the future, the way you can. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. We're still in public comment in the room. Any more public comment? Closing public comment in the room. We'll go online. Is there anybody online for public comment? Seeing none online, we're going to go ahead and go on to number 5 for possible action, review and adoption of the agenda. Do I have any comments or motions on the board?
To approve the agenda as posted.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Hendricks, second by Commissioner Casanelli, but we'll go to public comment now. Is there any public comment on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. This brings us to our first time certain at 9:00 a.m. for presentation only. A presentation from Melanie Young Pinkerton, Executive Director of Yerington Main Street Committee, with information about the organization, current projects, and future goals of the organization. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Melanie Young Pinkerton. I'm the Executive Director for the Yerington Main Street Committee. And it's an honor to come before you today to share the work that the Main Street Committee is doing here in Yerington. And we have a presentation up. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the Yerington Main Street Committee was started in 2024 as a nonprofit 501c3 entity, with the goals of obtaining community development funding, increasing visitors and businesses, along focusing on improving the Yerington Main Street. Our mission is to lead a community-driven revitalization by enhancing Yerington's Main Street, connecting corridors through preservation, economic development, beautification, and engagement. Next slide, please. Wanted to share with you our committee. Got a wonderful group of people who've been a part of the Yerington Main Street Committee since it started. Scott Draper, Nick Beaton, Debbie Douglas, Carrie Gilmore, Jerry Bryant, Bryce Boland, Anna Draper, Darcy Beaton, Joan Blake, Bonnie Bobrick, and myself. We're all the ones that come together with bringing up ideas, volunteer efforts, and applying for different funding we receive. Next slide, please. This slide represents the corridors that the Yerington Main Street Committee has selected. So we have Goldfield, Main Street, Bridge Street, and potentially a river walk to create the heart of Yerington. Next slide, please. The Main Street Initiative started around the US with the Main Street America and the Nevada Main Street program through the Governor's Office of Economic Development, where the focus is on rural small towns by promoting and facilitating community development. The Yerington Main Street Committee is an affiliated member of that program, and by being a part of that program allows us to apply for funding that would not be available if we were not an affiliated member. We just received funding from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Out of their grant awards, we received $25,000 that is going towards historical markers in Yerington and a facade grant program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on some additional slides. The pillars of the Main Street program are economic vitality, organization, design, and promotion. Our Yerington Main Street Committee added the preservation of heritage, arts and culture, strategic partnerships, and beautification projects. The goals are to strengthen the existing economic assets of the community while diversifying the economic base. The design focuses on enhancing the visual aspects of the Main Street corridors, and a successful organization builds consensus between its vested stakeholders. And promotion focuses on the positive image to instill the community pride and encourage commercial activities. We currently have partnerships with the Yerington Chamber of Commerce, the City of Yerington, the Yerington Theater for the Arts, the Through a Child's Eyes Foundation, Yerington Rotary, Yerington Lions Club, Walker River Basin Community Foundations, and many more. Next slide, please. Our Yerington Main Street corridors all have a distinct feel and purpose in our communities. To break down such a large area, the Yerington Main Street Committee decided to create districts that focuses on themes for each one of these areas. By doing this, it creates opportunities for grant funding that may be very specific for a purpose that one would not necessarily associate with the Main Street program. For example, we have designated Littell Street as our Yerington Arts and Cultural District. This allows us to apply for arts district funding or arts focused funding to enhance the area. Littell is the home of the Yerington Theater for the Arts and a future home of Through the Child's Eyes Foundation Performing Arts Studio. The Main Street Committee has identified opportunities for improvements along this corridor. It's a 2-block area with arts and cultural focuses with murals, public art displays, fencing, decorative benches, lighting, and a focus on supporting the local arts in the community and performances through our collaborative partners. Next slide, please. This picture depicts a grant that we applied for through T-Mobile that focuses solely for associated Main Street members. They have quarterly grants available up to $50,000, and we chose to apply to create the Yerington Arts and Cultural District. If the grant is approved, we will know in May. And our proposal includes installing a mural on the south side of the chamber building, installing seating and a sculpture between the Chamber of Commerce and the Littell Castle, and placing decorative benching along the route. This funding would also, on the fencing, we plan to display creative art pieces that are input from the community. So this picture is our historic Main Street district. The projects listed on this page represent the efforts of the Main Street Committee identified in its strategic plan. By installing historical markers on historical buildings, promote facade improvements along the Main Street corridors, plant a large Christmas tree somewhere along Main Street, and create a map of historic places, murals, and important locations. Looking at installing EV charging stations in the central area of Main Street to promote visitors stopping and charging their vehicles and visiting our downtown businesses. Lastly, as a fundraiser, the Yerington Main Street Committee would like to build a historic playhouse that we will build based on a historic building in Yerington. We have selected the Yerington Theater for the Arts to build this playhouse that will raffle off as a fundraiser. And what this does is it really connects our youth to our history here in Yerington. So we're very excited about that. And again, we've been received $25,000 for historical markers and facade improvements. Yerington has 19 business buildings on its Main Street corridors that are of historic nature. 4 of them are on the historic register. 14 of the remaining 15 are over a century old. And we want to preserve that history. Next slide, please. We have designated Goldfield as our commerce district. This allows us to focus efforts on capturing the highway traveler to stop for resources along with our commercial for our residents. This initiative includes sidewalks, lighting, and pedestrian safety, working to fill the vacant buildings on business opportunities, And we were fortunate to receive $50,000 through Travel Nevada to put sidewalks on Goldfield. So this will put sidewalks in front of Huntley Motor World, True Value, and a walking path as far as the funding will get us. Next slide, please. Bridge Street, we've designated that as our professional district. So this is where our hospitals are and many professional services. Our initiatives here will focus on promoting areas of professional services, pedestrian safety, facade improvements, and focus on area cleanups. Next slide. Lastly, one of our initiatives of the Yerington Main Street Committee is to develop a river walk that will connect Bridge to Goldfield. We're working on that, and hopefully we can have more information in the coming years on that one. Next slide. This slide represents our 2025 accomplishments, and there's quite a few of them. We received a total grant award of 90,000 from grant awards and funding from our local partners. Additionally, projects that we completed, we installed new banner poles, recently put up our new banner across the road welcoming people to Yerington, which I think looks great. We added Christmas decorations, installed new light poles, stop signs, street signs, and benches along Main Street. We have a visitors information center on Goldfield, or on Main Street just past Goldfield. We installed and put in pickleball courts, worked on the dog park, and many beautification projects. Next slide. This includes our 2026 projects, which I'm very excited. We're starting off with a banner year. We have so many projects in process. We are working on a mural on the north side of the chamber building. I'm not sure if you saw that we've enclosed that. That is a part of a project that we're working with it's from funding from Travel Nevada, and it's with Walker. My gosh. Walker Basin Conservancy. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked on that one. But that one is a mural that represents the heritage and the harvest capital of the Copper Hills. We're working on landscaping, and we will have an unveiling, looks like sometime in May. We applied for 49,000 to implement the Yerington Arts District. We have the $20,000 for facade improvements. Want to talk a little bit about that. That allows us to partner with local businesses to fund 50% of a facade improvement if they were to improve the front of their building. So up to $5,000. So we anticipate we will fund at least 4 projects. We had our first project recently. It was the new bookstore. We helped them replace the awning and put a new sign in front of that store. We're very excited about that. We just applied for some funding through Travel Nevada for a rural marketing project. What this will give us is a Yerington map with historical places, murals, and businesses. And additionally, we will produce an annual calendar of events and flyers to promote Yerington more. And also, we just recently received a phone call from the Nevada Arts Council where Yerington was selected to do a 250th anniversary mural, which we're pretty excited about. So the Arts Council wants to do a community input meeting. That meeting is scheduled for April 9th at the Yerington Chamber of Commerce at 6 p.m. Would love to have everybody come and put some input on what this 250th mural looks like. They're planning on putting one, I think it's in every county, but Yerington was selected specifically for the efforts that the Main Street Committee's done, and they reached out to us. In the past 5 months, the Yerington Main Street Committee has submitted funding applications in the amount of $1.2 million for this community. Lastly, we plan on focusing efforts on advancing the river walk this year, applying for funding for sidewalks and other area improvements, looking to create a city center plaza, and funding to promote Yerington more. Last slide. And this concludes my presentation, but I really want to share that sustainable funding for Main Street programs is essential. The organizations are not event coordinators. We are economic drivers that support small business, attract visitors, and enhance overall vitality of our downtowns. Consistent and reliable funding for Main Street committees and plan strategically leveraging additional grant resources, private investment, and deliver projects that create a lasting impact on the community. Local governments play a critical support role in this, where cities and counties invest in their Main Street initiatives and are investing in economic development, community identities, and long-term sustainability. That partnerships help ensure that these programs can maintain momentum, expand their impact, and continue delivering meaningful results to the entire community. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. This is just for presentation only, but I would go through the commissioners and you have each one of them have a chance to have something to say.
Thank you.
So let's start off with Commissioner Lockaday.
No, thank you. It's a great presentation. Appreciate you bringing the things up and all that you're doing to make sure that downtown here is taken care of.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to commend you on what appears to be a very robust list of successful grants that you've been doing. And the Main Street program, I know Dayton just kicked off one, and it's exciting to see all of them in rural Nevada. That I know, I think Eureka and Garnerville's got a Tonopah. They're all doing a really good job, and it's nice to see the preservation and the promotion of our historical buildings. So yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hendricks.
So this was just created 2 years ago?
Yes.
What you've accomplished in 2 years is pretty impressive. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, very impressive. No, Commissioner Casanelli mentioned the grants, but and then just the revitalization of downtown. Could you tell me just a little bit more about the historic playhouse?
Yes. So that was the Yerington Main Street Committee wants to provide funding so that we can keep reinvesting into the community. So we are working with some community partners and creating a playhouse. This will go in a family's backyard here in the community, hopefully, that we will raffle off. So we're picking every year, we will pick a new historic building to build a playhouse. This will be our first one. We chose the Yerington Theater for the Arts, the Jeannie Deany Cultural Center, to model that playhouse after. So we're hoping to have that built by July, and we'll raffle it off, and people can buy tickets, and we'll raffle it off during Christmas, the Yerington Small Town Christmas week that we have.
Right on. And who did you say was building that?
Our committee. The Yerington Main Street Committee is building that.
Just for curiosity, being this ex-school guy, have you reached out to the shop class at Yerington High School? Maybe make that a project or something that
I have not, but that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, that might take some of the burden off you folks and give a great meaningful project, and then you'd have Yerington High buying in as well. I'm not telling you what to do because you're doing a great job, and just the list of projects and the accomplishments is beyond impressive. So thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation today.
Thank you.
I want to thank you too. I've had talks with the Lieutenant Governor's office and with the Lieutenant Governor, and we're trying to bring more people into the rural areas, trying to not let them go to California or somewhere else, bring it and enjoy the rural areas and spend money. And this is fantastic what you guys are doing. So congratulations. It's good.
Thank you.
Going to move on to 6B, time certain, 9:00 a.m. for possible action. Presentation given by James Springate from Wood Rogers, Inc. to adopt the South Silver Springs Area Drainage Master Plan.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. My name is James Springate. I'm with Wood Rogers. We're a local engineering firm. And we were contracted by Lyon County and Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District to do a drainage area master plan on South Silver Springs. This is a CTP project, means it's a cooperative technical partner project with FEMA funding that we performed on behalf of Lyon County. Next slide. So the purpose of the study, we looked at the existing flooding in South Silver Springs and the future conditions of the flooding that may occur. And we provided recommendations and results for how to mitigate some of the flooding in that area, and we'll have a Q&A session after that. Next. So the purpose of our study, like I mentioned, we analyzed the existing flooding conditions in Silver Springs, and is a fairly widespread area in South Silver Springs. They have had some historic flooding in the last couple of years, mostly flash flooding that's in the summer. But specifically, they had a flash flood event in April of last year. There was another one in 2020 and another one in 2017. So we do have some historic flooding that's going on in this area that we wanted to study, get a better handle on. We modeled the future flooding and what could happen in Silver Springs, both in current conditions with, rainstorm that might happen this summer, and also as Silver Springs continues to be developed and built out. We assessed the performance of the existing drainage infrastructure that's in the area, and then identified feasible mitigation strategies for how to kind of prevent some of the damage that could happen in the future. So, next slide, please. This is our area of analysis for the drainage study. So it extends from Spruce Avenue to the south. And this is only the southern portion of Silver Springs. And then on the west is bordered by Churchill Butte and the crest of Churchill Butte. And then on the south and east, the Carson River and Lyon. So this area in particular, we're largely looking at flash flooding events, right? We get kind of two types of flooding in the area. You either get the flash flooding in the summer or you get a rain on snow event. And those are much more, much larger flooding, but typically only in the river corridors, right? This particular area drainage master plan did not focus on the Carson River corridor. So we're mostly looking just at the flash flooding events that do cause the worst flooding in this area. Next slide. But for the existing conditions, what is happening in this area? We have Churchill Butte on the west, and the drainage largely comes to the east and north off of Churchill Butte and flows to the east until it hits one of two kind of barriers there in succession. First is US 95, which, as you know, in that area is raised above the existing ground. So the water largely piles up behind US 95 and then goes through a number of culverts. And then after US 95, there is the Union Pacific Railroad that has the exact same effect, right? It's raised above the existing ground, specifically to keep it out of the flooding. And the water piles up behind the railroad and then goes through some existing culverts and then continues on to the east. So we have kind of two conditions here. One is that the water is coming through the canyons off of Churchill Butte in a fairly concentrated, fairly fast manner, right? These typical flash flood events. And then once it hits kind of the bottom slopes of Churchill Butte, it fans out in a typical like alluvial fan manner where it's much more spread out. It's the same amount of water, but it's only 6 inches deep, right? Next. So this is a photograph of some of the modeling that we did for the existing flood conditions. This is the 100-year flood that they would expect in Silver Springs if we got a 100-year storm on Churchill Butte and the surrounding areas. So as you can see on the west side, we have those concentrated flows in the canyons and gullies. And then as we move to the east, we've got the areas that are highlighted there are areas where the water piles up before it goes through the culverts under US 95 and the Union Pacific. And then on the east side, we have that much more spread out flow where it's ponding in small localized depressions and mostly moving through the area in a fairly shallow manner. Next slide, please. Here are a couple of just example spots. This is near Quince Avenue. There's a fairly large culvert there and existing. This is the largest crossing that we have in the area. I believe the existing culvert is a 6 foot by 10 foot culvert. And so as you can see, the water pools up behind US 95. And then as it goes through the culvert, it is back to that concentrated flow. But as you can see, the water is definitely deeper on the upstream side, right? The culvert is in effect restricting the water that's going through and causing it to pool up in some of those neighborhood areas. Next slide, please. This is another area near Quince. This is above that. And it's the same effect, right? We have the culverts that are going under the embankment and the pooling that occurs before it. Next slide, please. This is the Ramsey Weeks cutoff, which has the same issues largely. There's a culvert at the Ramsey Weeks cutoff that conveys water from the west to the east. And after that, you can see there are some pooling areas to the east. That's actually the only mapped floodplain in this area. There are some small dry lake beds there that the water puddles up in and does not escape from. Next slide, please. Here's an area that was pointed out as a concern from some of the residents in the area. This is near Badger Street and Cougar Street, where the water goes through some culverts. There's a single culvert under the Union Pacific Railroad. It's a 36-inch culvert. And the water in that area, the land is fairly flat. And so before the water can get through that culvert, it does cool up pretty significantly. And that's entirely a residential area. Next. So let's talk about the development and the growth in this area in South Silver Springs. The orange on this slide are parcels that currently have a structure on them. Either they were developed single family or developed commercial properties. The green on this slide are properties that do not currently have a structure on them. Now, the majority of those properties have been sold. They're owned by private interests, private parties. Not mostly developers. Most of that land has already been subdivided and has been bought by, I assume, people intending to build houses on those areas. So we are expecting in the future more development in the Silver Springs area, and that does affect our flood results. The flood conditions in that area are going to largely stay the same as Silver Springs develops, because mostly you're building a single house on a 5-acre lot, and that does not change the drainage patterns consistently. But what it does is increase the potential damage that we would see out of the same flood event, as there are now more structures within the flooding areas. Next slide. So here's an example of what we're looking at. So on the left, you can see the exhibit that we have on the left are the existing conditions in the 100-year storm. And these are parcels that have a structure that is experiencing more than half a foot of flooding at the structure right now. So there are 102 in that slide. We purposefully chose half a foot as the cutoff for the flooding in this flood because per Lyon County code, houses that are built in this area have to follow the International Residential Code, which demands that there's a 6-inch difference between the finished grade next to the house and the finished floor of the house. So if the house has more than 6 inches of flooding at it, there is water in that house. On the right are all of the parcels in this area that have more than half a foot of flooding anywhere in the parcel. And so potentially we could have many more structures in this area that are at risk, right? Next slide. So recommendations that we looked at. First and foremost is the adoption of this area drainage master plan, right? Existing Lyon County Development Code allows Lyon County to take a look at approved master plans when people are trying to build houses in the area and ask that they build those structures above the anticipated flooding. So if you notice on that last slide, we had those red areas of the parcels that have more than half a foot of flooding. Most of those do not have half a foot of flooding over the entire thing, right? It's very depending on where on the 5-acre parcel the water is going. So adopting this area drainage master plan would allow Lyon County to take a look at the results when building permits are in for review and ask that those structures are not placed in an at-risk area on the lot, or at least raised up above the existing flood elevation that we would be expecting. The second are additional standard details, such as cutoff ditches. So we have an example in the ADMP document for what we're talking about. The large scale drainage infrastructure in Silver Springs is not going to be cost effective at this time, right? There is just not enough potential damage there for the cost of large-scale drainage infrastructure. However, there is a potential for individual citizens that live in Silver Springs to say divert some of that water around their property. We know that we have had some homeowners try and do that, but there aren't any very clear standards on how to do that in Lyon County. So we would propose that Lyon County Community Services adopt some standard details of things like cutoff ditches, or if a homeowner wanted to try and protect their own property, that they could do that in a way that has been looked at and approved by Lyon County. Next would be culvert upgrades, providing significant emergency access benefits. So particularly when we were looking at the zoomed in flood slides, the first two were the Quince drainage. That's the largest one in the area, and that one is a problem. And the problem is that it overtops US 95 in that area. All of that runoff is coming from the west, and it curves to the north, and it goes over Ramsey Weeks cutoff, extends to the east, and then overtops US 95. And the problem with that is a large enough drainage that it entirely cuts off portions of Silver Springs from emergency services. There is no way around that drainage, right? So when we're talking about in a flood condition, if there were an emergency, if there was someone that needed help, if you're coming from the south, the residents on the north aren't going to be able to receive that. And if you're coming from the north, the residents on the south aren't going to be able to receive the emergency services that we have. So we anticipate that that will be a problem in the future, and we would like to propose some culvert upgrades specifically at 2 locations so that the water does not overtop the freeway. That still keeps that emergency corridor active. Third would be structure raising above the modeled flood elevation, and that does demonstrate the strongest benefit to cost performance. So this is kind of an out-of-the-box idea that has been implemented in other areas very successfully, but not necessarily in Northern Nevada very much, right? Reno has a program that's been doing it for the Steamboat Creek corridor, where they take the house and you raise it up with a crane and rebuild the foundation higher and set the house right back down. So that just keeps the house out of the flooding, right? It's a fairly, it's intense labor and construction for a couple days, but after that, the house is put back down and people can continue living in it, right? So in terms of the amount of disruption to a person's life, it's fairly minimal. Most of the homes in this area are also, manufactured housing, so they are actually constructed to be lifted up, right? That is how they get them to the site. So these are constructed to be able to lift that. There are contractors in Northern Nevada that do this work. They have been doing it in Reno, so we know the cost fairly well of doing that to a single house. And in terms of protecting individual structures from the flooding, it is much more cost effective to get the structure out of the way than it is to reroute the water. If we're looking at something like a 5-acre lot, which are the majority of the residences in Silver Springs, that's more than 200,000 square feet of area on a 5-acre lot, where the house that's on it is probably a 2,000 square foot house. So only 1% of that lot area is actually house. Rerouting storm flows over the entire lot is incredibly expensive, and just raising the house so that we protect the structure and the family inside it is much cheaper. The fourth is future detention ponds to improve the resilience of Silver Springs. We have a couple that we proposed. These do not pencil out currently in terms of trying to get FEMA funding to put the project into place. They will when Silver Springs starts being built out and there are more structures at risk. All right, so in the future, we would propose that Lyon County take a look at some of these detention ponds to promote the future growth and to help prevent structure flooding. Next slide, please. So the cost to benefit analysis is part of the ADMP process, especially when we're doing a FEMA project, because we're looking specifically at ways that we could potentially get FEMA funding to mitigate the flooding in the area, right? We want to, as much as we can, maximize the potential for this FEMA grant funding to come to Northern Nevada, right? So to get FEMA funding, it is a bare minimum that your project must have a benefit to cost ratio over 1. meaning that the demonstrable benefit to the community in terms of dollars of prevented flood damage is over what it would cost to construct the improvements. So looking at the projects that we're proposing here, the culverts that continue the emergency corridor without overtopping US 95, those have a BCR of 0.23. That project would not be available for FEMA funding. However, we are still recommending that project due to the emergency corridor and the emergency services and evacuation routes that we would preserve with that. Next would be the raising the structures, the actual houses. That has a BCR of 2.99, which is incredibly high for a drainage project. So that would absolutely be qualified for FEMA funding. Getting FEMA funding for that project may not be easy because we would be competing with other projects nationwide, but it is possible for that project. Next slide, please. So that's all I have for you right now. I am available to answer any questions before you vote to adopt this area drainage master plan. We've been working on this project for the last year and I'm well versed in it. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any Commissioner Jacobson?
Thank you, Chair. So just a few things, questions on. So catch basins or retention ponds have a low 0.2 or whatever you said on that.
Yeah.
And those seem, I mean, I know sludging, debris and cleaning those regularly now adds task, but that seemed to be something that I think would be a benefit for sure. I know they work in neighborhoods and whatnot when they put those in, but as far as when people start altering their flood, it tends to affect other property owners next to them. And I'll be honest with you, I was surprised that lifting a house, I don't know how many people would want or trust somebody to come in and lift their house up into the air, build under it, and set it back down without fear of doing some structural damage. But as far as like approving new lots, is the soil from their ground able to be moved to elevate that, or do they have to bring in better soils to build a place up when they first construct it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, okay, you had a couple questions in there and I want to address them in order, right? So first you talked about the catch basins and ponds. Catch basins actually would have a much lower BCR than what we showed for the culverts. And the reason is when you build a catch basin, you need somewhere for it to go. So that includes some very intense subsurface drainage infrastructure, right? Large pipes that have to go somewhere. So when we're building things like catch basins, we have to route that water all the way to Lyon. And that's miles of storm drain infrastructure. And the cost of that is staggering when you don't already have it in the street. The second is that this area in particular has some alluvial fan soils all over it, right? So they have an erosion sediment load coming from Churchill Butte that then fans out in the alluvial fan and deposits. So we know that in this area historically, they have had difficulty keeping their storm drain infrastructure clean of debris, right? It silts in within a couple of years and Lyon County has to go clean everything out. For the larger culverts, that's not much of a problem because mostly the water is flowing fast enough to keep it clean. But for the smaller ones, it is absolutely a problem. So we wanted what we proposed to be as low of a maintenance effort for Lyon County as possible. You know, keeping in mind that even if FEMA would construct some of these, it would be up to Lyon County to maintain them, right? And so catch basins in particular capture the water and also the sediment and would need cleaning every single year to make them function. So the second thing you mentioned is that when private people start altering the drainage flows, that it affects their neighbors. Yes, less so in this area than anywhere else that I have ever studied, because we have the 5 acre lots, right? It's a fairly low slope in most of these places, right? So even if you channelize the water around the house, 30 feet later, it's back to its native condition, being spread out over the lot, and that's mostly before it even hits someone else's lot, right? So we have, I think, an opportunity in this area to route some of the flow around the houses by private citizens without doing much of impact to their neighbor. Third, you're asking if they were to build a house, could they take soil from somewhere else on the lot and pile it up? That would be a decision specifically lot by lot with the building permit for Lyon County Community Services, because it depends on the soil type and whether they would have to bring in structural fill or not. The area that we studied is 32 square miles, so the soils are not the same over the
Right.
whole thing. And so I can't give you an answer on that, but it would be up to Lyon County specifically for each building permit to take a look at whether that's feasible.
And then, if I may, these culverts, will they, if we put in improved culverts, will that take water? Obviously, it's gonna move water faster.
Yes.
Will that have a negative effect downstream?
That is a great question, and that particularly is why we're not proposing more culvert improvements. So you saw like the area over near Cougar and Badger that we have the culvert that's going under the Union Pacific Railroad. The water pools up before it goes under Union Pacific, and there are absolutely houses in that anticipated flooding area. However, if we increase the size of the culvert going under the Union Pacific, it then floods downstream properties. The two culverts that we are proposing that Lyon County increase the size of, there's a fairly sizable drainage channel on the other side of those that is large enough to capture that flow and convey it safely to the next one and then to Lyon. So those two in particular, we're lucky in that there's already a drainage channel that can handle the flow. But yes, absolutely, that's a concern that we look at.
And then finally, for me, I just want to thank you. You gave your presentation was something I could follow,
Thank you.
which is not easy to do. So thank you very much. I really appreciated it.
Commissioner Casanelli.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation and the culverts, anyone that's lived around this area for a long time, you can, obviously, we have a lot of undersized culverts. Some of them are out of Lyon County's control, like you mentioned. And there's a lot of them on the Highway 50 corridor, all the way into Dayton that you can identify as being undersized. The ones on the railroad as well. So what can we do with those that are out of our control? And MDOT sometimes seems reluctant to help us out, but you can see the data, the alluvial flooding, and it chokes at those culverts.
Yeah, so what we can do about it is, that's the $1 million question, right? Because we have to study anytime that we're looking at increasing the size of a culvert, we have to look at the impacts downstream. And that becomes incredibly difficult in an area like Silver Springs that already has homes in it, right? Part of, the US 50 corridor or the 95 corridor, some of those might be okay to discharge more downstream, and some of them might not be. Where in essence, the highway is acting as a detention structure, right? And whether or not it was intended that way, I can't say. Most of those culverts were built with US 95 in the 60s and 70s, right? And so the engineering records that we have from that time do not take the time to specify exactly why things were being done. It was just there's flow here, it needs to cross, we need a culvert. So we can only really increase the size of culverts in some areas, right? And the ones that we are proposing specifically, there is a demonstrable benefit to doing that, right? Which is to increase the corridor. So we have, during this whole process, been in communication with US Department of Transportation, or the Nevada Department of Transportation, right? NDOT reviewed this ADMP as it went along and provided red line comments. We did the storm events that we specifically modeled are two NDOT standards, and the way that we modeled them are two NDOT standards, so that if we decided to proceed with things like this culvert upsizing, NDOT would already be on board, right? We wouldn't have to redo a bunch of this stuff to get NDOT on board. So they have definitely seen it. They are aware. Last time that I talked to Carson Water Subconservancy, they were looking at a possible federal grant to help with some of this that NDOT would have to be a part of. So it's definitely an ongoing conversation with NDOT and, you know, our partners here in Lyon County and beyond of how do we take a look at and fix the flash flooding potential in northern Nevada, right? It's an ongoing conversation. I know that NDOT does not have the funding to fix everywhere all at once, but when we do have a demonstrable benefit, that definitely pushes it much higher up on the list. And the benefit to cost ratio that we showed you for the culverts assumes repairing the highway and doing the work on the highway just to replace the culverts. If the culverts were to be replaced, say, at the same time as the repaving of US 95, and we could combine those, then it definitely lowers the cost of replacing those culverts.
Yeah, so that answers my question. Definitely want to get this in front of them and let them know that we're aware that it's inadequate, and now they're on notice that it's inadequate. Second question, you identified 28 structures for potential raising. So that existing residential building code is 6 inches above final grade to the top of floor. Would it make sense for us as the county to change that code for those districts that are identified in the floods to say 12-inch above, or?
Yeah, so
Wait 1 second. I wanted to ask too, because you're going to be answering the same question. Is our code, it's 6 inches from the ground to the siding, right? We still got another inch going up. Well, I don't know how that code is actually written.
yeah,
Because we always try to get 8 inches, but
That's correct. Gavin Harrison, Lyon County Community Development Director, for record, that statement is correct. County code currently specifies that for these projects located, it's in chapter 800, in area drainage master plans, they're required to elevate that structure 2 feet to account for sedimentation. So all that is already included in code. All the structures we're talking about were built before all those standards were in place, and that's why there's that 6 foot or 6 inch threshold.
Got you. So it's already been addressed. All right, thank you.
any of the other two commissioners got any questions, comments? Commissioner Hockaday.
Yeah, thank you. Very good presentation. I just want to make sure that our residents in Lyon County realize that you can't just send your water off to your neighbor's property. It kind of seemed that way. Well, you just kind of channel it off. We're not allowed to do that. You've got to make sure that you've taken care of that hazard on your own property somewhere or another. And I know that we have a lot of that in Smith Valley with Red and Burbank Bank canyons. So a lot of this, since we have these houses that have already been built, and I doubt that you're going to get too many people to raise their houses up, quite expensive and as I say, very disruptive. Hopefully we can work these other issues with culverts and digging out better channels and making sure the water can get where it needs to go versus piling up behind 95 or the railroad. So very good work. And I think we have something to go on now.
I agree. So the beauty of raising the houses as a solution is it's modular. If you talk to those homes and only half of them want to raise their house to get rid of the flood danger, then we would only need money for half of them, right? It's not an all or none solution like it is if we were to put in large scale drainage infrastructure where it's either yes or a no, either it all goes in or it doesn't, right? And so having a modular solution, I anticipate that there will be a chunk of the homeowners that absolutely do not want that, and that's okay. But if some do, I think that there may be a possibility that we could get FEMA funding to cover that cost.
I mean, it's a good recommendation. I can appreciate that.
Do you have anything?
I don't have any questions. This is my second time seeing this presentation.
So I had a couple of questions. One is, if you're gonna raise structure, that cost is to put a full foundation under it, I assume?
You would need to, raise the structure and rebuild the foundation that's under the house so that it is higher. So there are a couple steps in that. They have to raise the house and then rebuild the foundation, usually with something like concrete masonry unit blocks, right? Not a poured foundation that takes too long to dry. So they rebuild the foundation, and then also have to redo the utility connections going into the house, right? They don't fit anymore. The cost of that is variable depending on the type of the house, but mostly it's only really a problem if it has a chimney. That gets much more expensive.
Right, you're not gonna raise that.
Not easily.
No, also we've talked a lot about Ramsey Weeks, and I know that floods over the top. Just so you know, I've lived there for 30 years, so in that area. So when that floods, it floods. If you could tell me exactly where it's gonna flood every year, that would be great, because it comes in a different spot every time.
Yes, it does.
But are you gonna anticipate culverts? And we would like to, somewhere along the line, change that's just a seal, what kind of seal? Chip seal, road, and somewhere along the line, we would like to have that paved. Any consideration of doing any of the culverts along there? What we're gonna have to do to kind of get that drainage to go in a certain way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the problem with putting culverts across Ramsey Weeks is that below that is all private property, right? There is no public corridor that we can route stormwater through. There's no existing channels that we can maybe improve. And so if we put culverts in, I think the county is then going to probably need to purchase easements or purchase land from private homeowners to get that water through their land to the other side, right? And so it becomes a much more expensive proposition than just putting in the culvert, because the question is always, where does it go after, right? So yes, we absolutely looked at putting culverts in Ramsey Weeks. There's just no good way to route it through the downstream areas. And so the only solution that we have right now that's proposed with this ADMP that helps specifically the Ramsey Weeks area are the detention ponds that we're suggesting for future development. Those are both on the north side of Churchill Butte for the drainage that comes to the Ramsey Weeks, and it's on the two largest drainages in that area. Well, I guess the one is there, and the other one is more to the east a little bit, but that's the largest drainage that goes to Ramsey Weeks. And just for context, in the 100-year storm, it has more than 1,000 cubic feet per second coming through that canyon, right? And the Carson River is typically in the summer, especially somewhere near 60 CFS. But we're talking about a significant amount of water that comes through that and the flash flooding potential. And so the detention ponds are intended to just mitigate the flash flood potential in that specific area. Yes.
Just to slow it down, right?
Yes.
Basically.
Correct.
Have you thought about doing any of that on that 95A? You can drive out there and see all the dry lake beds of where it actually will end up.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all clay and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to change those into some form of wetlands.
That's a good question. We specifically did not look at that. The problem with wetlands in an area like that is that they do not have consistent water to keep hydrophytic vegetation alive, right? So we need to either dig it down or put a pump in it or reroute, Carson River water somewhere over there to put hydrophytic vegetation in it, right? Now the question is, can we dig that down to just provide, a retention pond in essence? Yes. In that area specifically where those dry ponds are is to the east of US 95, which experiences very shallow flooding in general, right? The water has already been detained at US 95 and come through those culverts in a controlled manner and then spread out. So the flooding through there is 3 inches deep, 4 inches deep. So can we do that? Yes. But the amount of benefit that it will provide relative to the cost is definitely not there.
And so another thing that, biggest problem we've ever had out there is when it snows, which is very rare, but when it does, and then we get rain and everything, and it's the roads, basically. It's the roads follow the contour, but once they can't handle the mount.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the traffic just starts eating up the roads and the
Yep.
roads get worse and everything else. So to me, it's the roads are the biggest problem we have out there, and constraints on the road. So I want to thank you very much for the presentation, and hopefully we can get some stuff going.
Thank you.
Oh, can you shoot, I don't need it right now, but can you tell me how many of those homes are manufactured? Because I'm pretty sure most of them
The ones that we're
talking about.
potentially raising.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the vast majority of it. So all of the structures that are in Silver Springs right now that experience some type of flooding, 80% of them are manufactured homes. So of the 28 that we're proposing to raise, figure 20, at the bare minimum are manufactured homes.
Thank you. Yeah, this is for possible action item, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the board for any more comment, but then I'll go to public comment. So you guys have any more comments? Go to public comment from the room. Seeing none, go to, see one.
Visible? Robin Biggs for the record. I think it's called the Natural Resource Conservation Service now. It's formerly the old, known as the Soil Conservation Service. And there were soil scientists all over the United States with this agency, and they mapped all of the United States of where housing could go and not go, and different things. It was suited for agriculture, it was suited for industrial. And a lot of states look at that before they decide, where they're gonna put in their subdivisions and housing. And you talk about alluvial fans, holy cow, that's, you're not gonna control that. That is the number one thing. They look at that, there's an alluvial fan, there's no way you can put housing in here. And other states do that. I mean, you can't even come before a commissioner or city and say, we want to put housing in. You're talking about federal government grants for this. I'm a little confused, so trust me, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but any future, if there's future planning in this area for housing, you look at the Soil Conservation Service, that you can go to the Resource Conservation Service and find out, no, housing cannot go in here. And with an example here, I'll say Poverty Flats, that happened, and they put, sewers, and they put wells and septic tanks in, but this is extensively mapped, especially in Lyon County. I know those soil scientists that did this, and where housing can go in and where it can't. So I just hate to hear more and more about federal money and our federal grants going into this. And a manufactured home can't just be lifted up into the air. It has to be, the marriage beams have to come off, and it has to be separated. I don't even know what company would even do that with a manufactured home. I don't know what you're talking about from the maps and stuff. So if I'm way out of line on this, a lot of this I'm not. Yeah, alluvial fans, that is flood. You don't put housing in, and I'm worried about all that housing that is proposed over in Dayton and stuff for all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment from the room? Any public comment online? Bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to adopt the South Silver Springs Area Drainage Master Plan as presented.
Second. I have a motion from Commissioner Casanelli, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 6C, time certain, 9:10 a.m., public hearing, business license revocation for possible action to revoke business licenses. And instead of going through all those, I believe we have I'll let the presenter say which ones those are.
On the 6C item, we did get some businesses current, so we do have them down to 5. So if you wanted to cross out 12119, 12215, 12181, 11843, 11800, 11382, and 07220. We were able to bring them into compliance. So we have 6 that we're unable to bring into compliance that we're asking for authorization to revoke at this time. They aren't meeting the requirements of maintaining federal, state, or county or city licenses required by our business license standards.
So to be clear, I'll read these in, tell me if these are the right ones that we're talking about and removing. 03863-1, 11546, 08868-1, 01473-1, 12155, and 11949.
That is correct.
Do we have any comments from the board before we go to public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Any public comment online? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Chair Keller, I'll make a motion to revoke the business licenses for 03863-1, 11546, 08868-1, 01473-1, 12155, and 11949.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to 6D, time certain, 10 o'clock a.m. for presentation only. Update from the Bureau of Land Management on current projects in Lyon County from Kim Dow, BLM District Manager. Presentation to include an update on the Arivia Power Project with a representative from Arivia Power.
Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate the opportunity to provide updates. Unlike our normal presentations, we're going to focus just on the Arivia projects. And at our next update, we'll go through all of the projects. Of course, if you have questions at the end about any other projects, we're happy to answer those. Next slide, please. So I do, before we get started on the data centers and the energy projects, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to Matt Megaletti. He is our new permanent field manager for the Sierra Front Field Office. This is a position that has been vacant for 3 years. And so we finally have someone in that role. Most of Lyon County public lands fall within the Sierra Front Field Office. There's a few that fall within the Stillwater, but the vast majority is Sierra Front. So Matt Megaletti is the person that you'll be seeing a lot at these meetings when we provide updates. Matt will be the person here and I'll attend as needed. So with that, I would like to then turn our time to talk about the data center and energy projects that are proposed by Arivia Power. We have 3 data centers and one power project that they'll tell you more about. These projects are in pre-NEPA. That means that we've not yet started the environmental assessment. We have not established cooperating agencies. We have not done any of that normal process work. This is pre-NEPA, like many of our projects. And as we've talked about before, you know, the commission has been very clear that you wish for those proponents to come and speak with you when they have their projects kind of understood. We always encourage our proponents to do that, to reach out to stakeholders and the county. And Arabia Power, it was very, very happy to do that. So this is in that pre-NEPA stage, but they're happy to provide an update early and often. So with that, who we have here with Arabia Power, we have Ricardo Graff, and then we also have Rafiq Albert, and Rafiq will be giving the presentation. So I'll yield my time to him, and I'm happy to take questions at the end if needed.
Thank you. Good morning, Rafiq Albert, Executive Vice President for Lands and Permitting at Arabia Power. I'm joined today by Ricardo Graff, who is one of the founders of Arabia and our Chief Development Officer. Appreciate the time today to give an early presentation on some of our early projects that are in process with BLM. Could we go ahead and one more slide? So to give you an overview first, we have 3 data center proposals: the Silver Springs West Data Center, Silver Springs South Data Center, and On the Mark Data Center that are located between Stagecoach and Silver Springs. And then to the south, we have the Scorpio Energy Center, a gas power plant at the northern end of the Mason Valley, near the existing Fort Churchill generating station. Next slide. The data center proposals each entails a hyperscale data center campus with roughly 16 buildings, 400 megawatt gas plant, 400 megawatt battery, ancillary uses like security fencing, access controls, internal roadways, so on. And we intend to use low water use technologies at each of the data centers. We're currently running analysis on the exact water use, so we'll have that information within the coming couple of months. Next slide. This is a typical data center layout. This is actually the Silver Springs West site, but the others would have the same kit of parts, buildings located in different areas, the same buildings. So you can see the 16 single-story data halls. And that consists of the actual structure and adjacent electrical infrastructure. The gas plant is in purple there, in yellow is the battery, and then you have 2 project substations and a switch yard. Next slide. A bit more detail on Silver Springs West and On the Mark. These 2 are adjacent to each other. Silver Springs West is just under 700 acres. On the Mark is 530 acres. That's all BLM land. Access would be from USA Parkway. Construction is proposed to start next year, towards the end of next year, and continue through 2031. Next slide. Silver Springs South is a larger application area, about 1,056 acres. But that's just the application. The actual project would probably be 50 to 60% of that land. And this site is south of Highway 50. With access via microwave. And this project is about a year behind the others. So construction would start in 2028, continue through 2032. Next slide. Finally, the Scorpio Energy Center. This is a 400 megawatt gas plant and 400 megawatt battery. It's on 110 acres. It's about 2.5 miles northeast of the Walker River substation. Also northeast of the Fort Churchill generating station, which is the existing gas plant in that area. Access is from Julian Lane, and it would be served by a branch off of the existing gas pipeline that connects to the Fort Churchill generating station. Next. We've completed an initial economic and tax analysis for the projects, and we're projecting that projects would generate, each campus would generate about 300 long-term jobs, and these are high-quality jobs, technicians, engineers, and so on. Preliminary analysis of after abatement revenues from each data center campus comes out to about $30 million a year, split about 15.5 million in real property taxes and 14.5 million in personal property tax for the equipment inside the buildings. So that's 30 million per campus after abatements are applied. The tax revenue from a single data center campus is equivalent to adding about 8,300 homes, without generating all of the needs that homes generate. You know, you're not adding thousands of students that require thousands of school expanded schools. And this analysis is preliminary. We are going to be updating it as the design is finalized and it goes through BLM process. Next slide. Preliminary schedule is surveys and design currently in process for Silver Springs West, On the Mark, and Scorpio. We are anticipating NEPA would begin in the second half of this year. We think cooperating agency outreach will begin soon, but Kim can provide more information on the timing for that. County entitlements, we think will come in the second half of this year. We still have some work to do before we're ready to come in with formal applications. We're hoping for BLM approval in the first quarter of next year and then construction towards the end of next year. And as I mentioned earlier, Silver Springs South is a year behind the other projects, so we won't be coming in for county entitlements until the second half of next year. And I think there's one more slide. Yeah. So what's currently happening is that we just received approval from NDOT on the scope for our traffic study. So that traffic study is in process. We should have results and a report in the hands of the county within the next month or two. We're coordinating with NV Energy and Great Basin Gas. We're doing surveys for NEPA for the environmental review. As I mentioned, NEPA should be occurring second half of this year, and submittals, county submittals will occur then as well. And that, I think, concludes my presentation. Appreciate your time. Look forward to coming back in the future to share more information. Thank you very much.
Ready to the board for comment? Commissioner Hendricks.
Yeah, as you know from when we met, I understand BLM's just doing their job, but on private land, these kind of projects benefit the county far and away much more. We get the franchise fee on their power usage and a lot of other things. Silver Springs Basin 102 has a very finite amount of water, and putting these in there reduces the amount of water we have available for development that actually benefits Lyon County. And so I'm absolutely opposed to this.
Do we have any other comment? So, for one thing, that isn't even zoned for that, right? And I'm not, me personally, I'm just talking about me. That's a residential area. We have, I think it's a slap in the face to the people that invest in that area. There's so much land out there that people have for sale that have invested in the community that you could go pay fair market value and build projects on. There's 20,000 acres right above that piece of land that I know of, let alone the rest of it. Why would we want to promote something like this, give you the cheap land so that it's a slap in the face to everybody that's invested in our community? That property would be better suited for other things. So I'm totally against it. I'm not gonna, of what's been presented to me, I am not about to support to classify that other than housing right now. Okay, at 20 acres of separated. So that's the way I feel about it. You mentioned abatements. Every other person that's came in here has said that they're not seeking abatements. So your company is trying to get the cheap land on the backs of everybody that's in the community that have supported it, and then go out for abatements to where we don't get any benefits from that. Well, minimal benefits compared to everybody else. So I'm glad, and glad BLM is here, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit at all. There's plenty of, I can take you around Silver Springs. That's where I live. I'll show you all big tracts of property. We've had two big companies come in already, and they did it the right way. They came in, bought property, Microsoft, and then what's the one right behind it? Trek, right behind it. They bought the property, they're developing the property, doing it the correct way, and not trying to get the public land for their benefit. So that's my feeling on the thing.
Could I provide a little bit more additional information?
Yeah.
So I understand the concerns related to water. There are the new technologies that are being implemented now for data centers are extremely low water use, and that is where the market is headed. So we're running that analysis now, and we'll have a lot more information. I don't think I think there's been a lot of talk in the media about extremely high water use data centers. That is not what is going to be implemented here. This will be not zero water use, but very low water use, certainly compared to large numbers of homes. And then you had a comment regarding zoning. We understand that there will be a zone change, master plan amendment. We will work with the county to understand what's required there and make sure that we make a solid argument in support of that. We're going to be doing an outreach process. We are at the early stage here. We haven't come in we're not asking for an approval today, not asking you to judge the project based on this presentation. We're going to be doing outreach with the community, with our neighbors. We're going to be going to the advisory boards for Stagecoach and Silver Springs. We'll be talking to the fire departments. There's a lot of work that we're going to be doing to make sure that the community and the commission is comfortable with the projects. Regarding abatements, we are not proposing abatements, but we want to make sure that you're getting the full story, that the economic analysis we present, I think, shows that there's a substantial benefit to the county. Even in the worst case of someone taking abatements, that is not something we're committing to. We're not the end user that will be applying for abatements. But in that case, if they do, you're still going to be seeing $30 million of tax revenue that benefits this. And that is just local tax revenue. It's going to go to the school district, to the county, to the libraries, to the hospitals, and so on.
So-
Did I miss any comments
No,
there?
but you just said, and you said it in our other meeting that we had, that this is truly speculative on your end. You're gonna build in the entitlements into the property. You don't have an end user.
Right.
So to me, I'm not gonna, with what you've done so far, there's no way that I personally would say that the zoning would change.
Mhm.
That's where it sits right now for me.
Understood. Thank you for that input, and can you give us some advice on what you'd like to see in order to help you understand the project better and change your mind in the future?
Me personally, I'd rather you didn't put a square peg in a round hole, and there's plenty of property that you can go buy out there that is zoned already for that process. You can put the entitlements on that. You could sell it from there. That piece of property, in my opinion, is not suited for it.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
It's 2:22. I'm going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. 10 minutes. Come back at 10:30. Well, this brings us to 6E, time certain, 10:05 a.m. for presentation only. Presentation from Vincent Guthrow, Executive Director of the Nevada Association of County, on NACO's role on the state and Lyon County, requested by Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for having me. This mic's on, right? Sorry, yeah, okay, thanks. Thanks for having me on the agenda today. Thanks for the invitation. Happy to be back. Honored to have just a little bit of time before you today and just provide some information on the support that NACO provides counties, and just an update on some of the things that we've been working on, and talk about some of the ways that we support all of you and our members. As I've mentioned before, NACO's goal and objective is to be the collective county voice and to provide resources and support for all of you so that you can do your jobs here locally. So that's ultimately our goal, as you provide those day-to-day services locally to your citizens. First off, I do want to thank you for your membership in NACO. We maintain our 100% state membership, which means that every county is a member. And that allows us a couple of things. One of the main things that it provides for us is that it provides us a big voice at the national level, gives us an extra seat on the national board, which guides national policy for counties, which is more important ever as we advocate at the federal level. I thought today, I know most of you know sort of how NACO is organized, but I thought I'd do just a quick reminder on that, talk about our executive board and sort of how we're arranged, talk about a little bit of stuff from session. We had a regular session last year. We also had a special session. So just sort of touch on that. I know you have your own government affairs manager here, so won't go too into it since I'm sure you've gotten that. And then we'll talk a lot about sort of how we how your engagement with NACO is super helpful to us and how it ultimately helps Lyon County. Probably have about 10 or 15 minutes of time. So feel free to cut me off because I could probably talk for an hour, but we know we probably don't need to do that. So so we are led we're led by a board of directors. Every county has at least one member on the NACO board. And then if your county has a seat on the national board, you receive one additional seat on our board. Your chair is your representative on our NACO board of directors, and then we have an alternate, Commissioner Hendrick. She also sits on our Public Lands Natural Resources Committee. So NACO has a couple of subcommittees. One is on Public Lands Natural Resources, so they handle they sort of navigate the world of natural resources, super important to counties here in Nevada, as you know, including Lyon County. And she sits on that and is very well engaged. And Commissioner Keller also engages in those meetings as well. Those are open to all county commissioners and staff if you would like to join those meetings. We also have a legislative committee, which is meets weekly during session and then meets monthly when they're not in session. They help us craft bill drafts and monitor legislation, and obviously during session they meet more regularly as session heats up, and we go from there. Commissioner, your chair, Commissioner Keller, he also sits. He's a vice chair of the Rural Action Caucus at the national level, which they deal a lot on rural issues. I know he gives updates to this board. He gives updates to our NACO board of directors. And he's built relationships there that I think are super critical for Nevada. And those relationships I think will help Lyon County and the state moving forward. So huge issue and a huge voice for Nevada as part of his relationship with NACO. So within the board of directors, we also have an executive committee, which is led by our board president, which is Commissioner Mark Gardner from Douglas County. And then Commissioner Andriola from Washoe County is our president-elect. And then Commissioner Kirkpatrick, who is from Clark County, she serves sort of at large. And then our immediate past president, Commissioner Andriozzi from Elko County, serves also on that. And then you have Commissioner Keller, who serves as our vice president. So that makes up the executive committee, who's sort of I report to on a day-to-day basis. And then additionally, our NACO board includes affiliate members. Those are your sort of independently elected offices. They don't have a voting seat on our board, but we do coordinate a lot with them during session. So those are your other elected offices. So your DA's association, your sheriffs and chiefs association, recorders, clerks. So you get the idea. But we coordinate a lot with them during session. Definitely rely on their subject matter expertise to understand how bills might affect their departments and county operations in that sense. We also have, I want to talk a little bit about staff, just so you know, we are an organization. We're not just one person. We have 5 staff members, including myself. And we have myself, so the executive director. We have an office manager who also manages our conferences and membership engagement. But we have a health and human services manager. So we expanded staff this year to really support our health and human services activities in counties. We are hearing that a lot from our counties across the state, really needing some help there. It's also a huge way that we interact with the legislature. So the NACO board made that a sustainable position. It initially started out as a grant funded position with the state, but we made that sustainable so that we could turn it into a health and human services position, and that they could also advocate for county work. Some results from that: SB 118 funding, which provides direct revenues to counties for public health at the local level. We also got that in the governor's budget for this session, and then that was carried through ultimately and passed. So we have 2 sessions in a row where that position has been very helpful to counties. She also helps support. It's Amy Hines Sutherland who leads that position for us at NACO. She also supported all the human service administrators throughout the state this year, really supporting their association during the legislative session as they try to navigate that, but also do their regular jobs. So she did a great job there during session, really providing them that support. We're also We're also diving into a lot of things in the interim with that position, working on a litany of policy issues. Amy's working on the rural child welfare space there. As you know, in Nevada, we sort of have this hybrid model where the larger jurisdictions set up their own programs for child welfare. They are funded through some static block grant from the state that's sort of frozen at 2011 levels. But here in smaller jurisdictions, you are assessed that service that the state provides. So they provide the service at the state level and then assess the county for that service. We had our first one of 4, which talked about an overview of that budget and the assessment. Our goal there is really to utilize that position at NACO to have better coordination with the state on those assessments. They're large assessments to counties. It serves a very important population in our counties. And we're hoping to have just a lot better coordination with the State Department on that. I think in a dream world, I would like to be sitting at the table with them as they present that budget, because counties pay for a lot of that. So through various assessments. So our second workshop will discuss foster care support at CPS. The other individuals that make up our staff is we have a government affairs manager as well. She's up here. She's actually positioned in Southern Nevada. 80% of our legislature is in Southern Nevada. She's down there in the interim, but in between sessions, but is up here. Her name is Jennifer, and she comes up during session and is up here day to day, as we all are in the building to advocate for counties. So, and then we have a natural resources position right now that is a contracted position with Resource Concepts, which I think some of you are familiar with. And they've really done a great job. They coordinate directly with myself, the executive director, as we handle sort of and navigate a flurry of federal issues. Recently undertook a ton of work on the sage grouse issue. We are still working on that actually as the BLM, which you just heard from on a different issue, as we navigate some implementation there, which obviously affects counties and impacts all the things that you can do here. But we do handle natural resources issues for counties as well, directly with staff on that sense too. So, and we do manage that through that Public Lands Natural Resources Committee as well. So that's sort of the board organization, governance structure, and then the staff also. So NACO, we're entering our 102nd year now as an organization. And one of our primary ways that we serve counties is we serve as a forum for collaboration in addition to being an advocacy organization. We don't take that lightly. We do it in a couple of ways. Number one, we have monthly board meetings on average. We actually have one coming up next Friday. And it helps commissioners, I think, come together and address common issues across the state. And then obviously, if you're engaged in a national association, you can learn about issues that commissioners are experiencing across the country that will be affected. I heard them mention data centers. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But that's a phenomenon that commissioners are experiencing across the country, frankly. So you're all learning from each other. And so we learn that at board meetings. We also learn that we also collaborate at our annual conference. Last year that was in Clark County. This year it will be in Douglas County. Our theme last year was Navigating Today for Tomorrow's Excellence. And that was really about all the work that counties have to do on a day-to-day basis, but also how we have to plan for the future, and how we have all these emerging industries that are coming into our counties, and we have to sort of prepare for that. And we have to work on that. We had the governor speak at our conference last year. It's the first time that NACO's had a sitting governor speak at their conference. We had a really great turnout, and there's some Lyon County folks in attendance, really well attended down there, and it was hosted at the South Point. And I think a lot of commissioners that attended and staff as well got a lot out of that. Also throughout the year, NACO hosts critical policy roundtables. We did one on Medicaid. I mentioned this 4-part series on the rural child welfare workshop series that we're doing to really do a deeper dive on those policy pieces. We did one on Medicaid. We did one, I think, a year or two ago on how to write a county natural resources plan. And we're going to host one on county revenues shortly. So we do a litany of these things as they become topical for folks, and do deeper dives on policies to help out, whether it's county staff or commissioners. We did a legislative wrap up shortly after the regular session in 25 to really go into what that session meant for counties. And then ultimately, we also strive to be a central point for county resources. We do that in a couple of ways. We have a weekly newsletter that comes out. We revamped our website a couple of years ago. We make attempts to keep that current with information that's topical and current for all of you. It's nvnaco.org if you're interested. And we keep information out there for folks to stay abreast of what counties are doing, what NACO is doing, and resources that you can all use, hopefully locally. So as I mentioned, we are an advocacy organization as well, primarily state legislative advocacy. And I do want to make a couple of comments about sort of how the legislature is changing. One of the ways that I think the legislature is changing is that we are frankly, I think we're in a year-round legislature. I know they don't pass bills in between sessions, but I've already been to 2 interim committees, one where we had to testify. And through our Health and Human Services manager, I know that she's been at multiple interim committees on health and human services. She's also involved in multiple stakeholder groups led by legislators in the interim. In the 2021 session, the legislature created interim committees that mimic the committees that they have during the regular session. And they are vetting bills. Those committees are getting bill draft requests that they are then using in the regular session. So frankly, we are in a position where we have to be engaged in the interim. It's not a time to sort of rest or relax anymore. We have to be engaged in those committees, and at the same time, regulations are happening from the prior session. I don't do that to complain. I do that to give a realistic picture of how the legislature is operating, frankly. And during the interim, NACO is often asked by legislators and committee chairs to provide county perspective on a litany of issues. And as I mentioned, in 2021, they did that restructuring. And then we are providing input on the bill drafts that they are considering for next session already as we speak. So we are, like I said, preparing for those year-round sessions that they are basically working on. I want to talk a little bit about sort of top of line issues from last session. And this is the regular session that I'm talking about. First, I want to thank your staff. Taylor Allison does a great job for you all at the legislature. We coordinated. She was in the building quite often. If she wasn't doing her emergency management day job, she was in the building. She does a great job, and we coordinated a lot around abatement issues, on tax abatements. She coordinated really well with some of the larger jurisdictions, and I think they were able to team up and do some really great things around preserving county revenues and making sure that your voices were heard at the legislature. So I think at the end of the day, my assessment from the session is that we were a little concerned with some of the federal funding changes that were coming down. Nevada is heavily reliant on federal funding. We're one state that's probably overly reliant on federal funding. But ultimately, I think our association was elevated to the point where we were asked pretty regularly to give county input and county perspective on the budget, on budgetary impacts. And I think we came out, at least in the regular session, better than I would have predicted. It doesn't mean we're in a great place, but I think better than we would have predicted. So 1,200 bills introduced. I think or BDRs, 1,000 of those became bills. We tracked about half of those that had some sort of county impact, so about 500. Couldn't have done that without our county partners keeping track of all those, but and getting to all those hearings, and couldn't have done that without the expanded staff that we had at NACO tracking a lot of those health related bills. NACO gets 5 bill draft requests during the legislative session. We ultimately introduced 4 because we had some high profile bills that were introduced by legislators that we were also following and advocating for. One that touched on renewable energy projects on federal lands and allowing for some cost recovery there, which was Assembly Bill 70 that ultimately got signed by the governor. And there was a handful of 2 of our 4 bills did get signed, and the other 2 didn't make it through for various reasons. We have divided government, so getting half of them through probably not too bad. I will say some other themes that emerge this session is that the legislature is diving into what I would call sort of neighborhood issues. They dealt a lot with sort of local tax abatements, as I discussed earlier. They dealt with issues around neighborhood blight. I think Lyon County, they ended up working heavily with NACO's Health and Human Services Manager on county cemeteries, which is something the legislature dove into this session. I think along our larger jurisdictions, Clark County especially had to weigh in on that throughout session. Issues around abandoned and junk vehicles, which NACO also weighed in on early on. So they're really sort of diving into the nuts and bolts of what you all do, which is sort of fascinating. But that's where we are. In some places, giving us more tools to do our job locally, and NACO's there to make sure that the county authority is preserved and they don't disrupt our operations. But yeah, that was sort of some of the themes that were emerging this year during session, and it was sort of fascinating to watch, I would say. NACO produces a bill summary every year of trying to capture all the bills that have some impact on counties, or counties have to take some sort of action, draft some sort of ordinance. And we produce that every year. I was going to turn the page and sort of talk about some of our national programs, ways to get involved there. I'm happy to take questions about session, but like I said, I think you got a pretty deep dive after session. I know it's 2026. But the special session ended in November of 25. So I'm happy to take questions or move on to national stuff, not to break up the routine here, but up to you.
Does anybody have any questions? No?
Yeah, one quick question. You touched on RCI as a natural resources consultant that you're utilizing, and I don't know if Lyon County has a natural resource master plan, but is that something that RCI could develop for us, and would that go through you, and are they available for us to develop something like that?
So that's a great question. So we have provided, like I said, I think a couple of years ago we did sort of a collaborative on why those are important, and gave counties some tools. Those are pretty comprehensive as far as, I think, especially for a county of this size, it would be something you'd want to go directly to RCI about. I don't know what their bandwidth would be to do that. I know they have some talent in that area, and probably would be a good place to go. I think, you'd want to start with your commission on how to, best to proceed there, but I'm happy to connect you all. It wouldn't be something that you'd want to do through us at NACO. I think that would probably be an RCI to Lyon County discussion, but happy to connect you all for sure.
All right.
And I think we did produce some templates just on things that, and we did have a third party that conducted that workshop for us. So I'll go back, and our workshops are saved. And I know one of the things they did in that workshop was created sort of a must-haves, like things that your natural resources plan should contain, just at a minimum. I mean, I think you might want to deviate from that a little as you explore that, if that's something that your county decides to do. But it was a nice template for, have these, I can't remember how many things they were, maybe 20 things, but make sure it includes this at a minimum. And ultimately, the goal of those natural resources plans were ways, it was to give counties tools to deal with federal agencies, right? Because they're supposed to sort of collaborate with those, and it's easier to do that if you have a plan to point to. So anyways, I'll be happy to connect you all. And I don't know what that looks like for the county or for them, but happy to connect you nonetheless.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
When you get to the national thing, I think there's a public lands resource library or whatever it is, that maybe you can touch on that, because that kind of
Center for Public Lands.
Oh, right. And there was some examples, right, in that. But yeah. Sure thing. So just sort of switching gears and talk a few things about the National Association of Counties and sort of how they support counties. And some of the ways that they can benefit. We can start there. So one of the programs that the National Association of Counties has, and they started it recently. So it's really going well now. I think it sort of had fits and starts at the beginning, as you would expect with any sort of large program that an agency or an organization is trying to build up. But essentially, it was a way to give the county voice on public lands issues. I think the states around the country have sort of their voice, and they have Western Governors Association and all these other larger groups that have these large land centers and the state gets to give their perspective on it. It doesn't always coincide with how counties feel about public lands or how we interact with public lands or impacts to our ways of life on public lands. So the National Association of Counties had it, and you are all members, you donated to that sort of once in a lifetime opportunity through those LACTF funds to create that National Public Land Center. And one of the things that has come out of that, among other things, is sort of an information hub around information about what other counties are doing on public lands. And I'll point you in the right direction, Commissioner, for some of the resource plans that other counties have done. Colorado comes to mind. I think is one that did one that's really comprehensive. And it's certainly a smaller county than this one, not geographically, but population wise for sure. So I'll point you in the right direction after this meeting, but so there's things like that where there are resources available so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you start going down that direction, at least you have a really good place to start. So the National Association of Counties is a great voice at the national level for federal lobbying. They're a respected voice. They create a federal lobbying platform through the American Counties platform, it's called. And as I mentioned, we get 2 appointments to the national board to help craft that policy. Commissioner Mark Gardner from Douglas County was appointed before he was president, and then Commissioner Kirkpatrick from Clark County. We try to do one urban and then sort of one smaller jurisdiction. We also have members of the what's called the Western Interstate Region, which is sort of they deal with Western issues for the National Association of Counties. Those 2 commissioners are Commissioner Steninger from Elko County, and then Commissioner Tipton from Humboldt County. And they are on the WIR board, it's called. And like I said, they primarily address public lands issues, and then sort of how those impact social services and housing and wildfire and all of those things. And they address those issues. And I mentioned the National Public Land Center already. Through the National Association of Counties, the way that you craft policy, there's 10 policy steering committees. I believe you 2 sit on the public lands ones, and then of course you're on the Rural Action Caucus. And really, those public policy steering committees that help craft the American Counties platform, that's sort of one component. And really the philosophy that we have at NACO is those in-person meetings really help you build those relationships, whether it's going to the National Association of Counties annual conference, or whether it's those regional meetings. And really learning from those commissioners that are also on those steering committees, that you just learn from them. There's monthly meetings that you can do virtually, but really those in-person meetings is where you learn, I think, the most. We encourage commissioners to attend those in person if they can. There's a ton of stories across Nevada of folks learning from others. I'll share one story even just from Story County, not to belabor this, but so Story County is obviously, they have a ton of data centers that are there. I think they have the largest one to start with, but the largest hub of data centers is in Loudoun County, Virginia. And there's a commissioner there named her last name will escape me, but her first name's Phyllis. They don't have term limits there, so she's been a commissioner for like 30 years. And she comes to National NACO to speak about data centers quite a bit. Well, she ended up taking Commissioner Mitchell on a huge tour of data centers, and then talked about all the pitfalls that they had about data centers and some of the great things that they learned from data centers. And now he's able to bring that information back to Story County and really get some of the good things out of data centers that I think are probably good for communities that have low impact, and get some of the development agreements that I think can benefit the community that he's in. So it's sort of one great example of how those in-person meetings have helped at least, Story County do some great things for them. And he learned that all through, some NACO meetings that he attended. Then she took him on a tour. Obviously, Loudoun County, Virginia is close to DC. It was during the NACO legislative conference that was able to work out for them. But policy steering committees is how you can get involved. The caucuses and those appointments, it's great that Commissioner Keller is on there. That's great. And then I also want to mention Commissioner Hendricks's participation in the Rural Energy Summit, right? Is that correct?
Cohort.
What is it?
It's a cohort.
Cohort. Okay. So, and I know you keep telling me how much you're learning from that. And so that's great. That's another thing that the National Association of Counties has put together to really get out in front of some of the development that's going on around alternative energies and data centers. Some of the information that we learned from the National Association of Counties was that banks, I think, are investing, it's like $3 trillion over the next 10 years in data centers across the country. So the data centers are coming, and I think if we can get a handle on some of the things here locally around local control, they can actually be a net benefit to counties, but we just gotta figure out some of those other local pieces. And I think we're learning a lot at the National Association of Counties on some of those things. Our meetings throughout the year at the National Association of Counties, again, it's sort of an expanded networking opportunity and collaboration opportunity. And like I said, I mentioned that Rural Energy Summit that Commissioner Hendricks is at. And I wanted to mention, I think I just had that was it really, just around those ways to get involved with the National Association of Counties. If there's topics that you're interested in, we have transportation, or like I said, some of the public lands pieces. It just takes a nomination from your state association. So if you're interested in getting involved at the national level, please reach out to me. Happy to nominate you, and I'll be happy to follow up with you, Commissioner, on that natural resources plan information, and maybe connect you with RCI as well, and go from there. I'm happy to answer questions about anything that your state association does, or that National Association does. Our offices are just here in Carson City. And I'll wrap it up from there, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, since Commissioner Jacobs has asked for this to be on the agenda, we'll start with Commissioner Jacobs.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah. A couple things. So as we go through budget shortfalls and whatnot, is Zoom an option at some of these like NACO offerings, such as the state convention?
It's not an option at the state annual conference. No, I mean, I don't know. It's not an option because I don't know what you would get out of it if you did it from Zoom. I mean, there's workshops and the events that it's not really conducive to Zoom the way that the annual conferences are organized. We did a virtual only annual conference one time, but that was during COVID.
Well, see, and I guess like a breakout session on the water was an excellent breakout session at the state, just to use that as an example. I don't know why. I mean, afterwards, I didn't ask any questions, but if I would have been viewing it from Zoom, I would have still got everything that was said out of that, because I just struggle if a county commissioner or somebody has an obligation or something, they can't make it down there, but they want to sit in on a session or two. I just struggle how West Point or wherever the venue is at, that couldn't be offered as an option to view that session.
Sorry, I'm sorry, which water?
Well, it was a panel, discussion, breakout session, any other breakout.
Sure.
Or even when the governor was there speaking, why that couldn't be zoomed out.
Yeah, for us, we just find that the in-person is the most valuable. For me, I guess personally, and the way that our board feels, we're not going to Zoom our banquet. Banquet is and that's where the governor was the keynote person at the banquet, if that's what you're speaking to.
Well, okay, so throw out the fact that you could have just zoomed in his speech. So, but the breakout sessions I struggle with. I don't know why that couldn't be available Zoom for even the entire public to view if they wanted to see them. I just think I just think that's archaic almost, and I'm not trying to be negative when I say that, but I don't understand why that can't be zoomed in.
Well, I mean, a couple things, not to be confrontational.
No, I'm not, and this is a discussion. You can say whatever you want to me, Vincent. I'm not going to take it.
One piece is we put a lot of work into those, and they're not just for the general public. They're for people who have signed up for the conference to attend. I recognize, and we put all those materials online, if people are interested in those materials afterwards. But our board has made a decision to not, I personally don't think it's archaic. I apologize if you have a difference of opinion there. We believe that the in-person viewing of those, the format of an in-person sort of dialogue is actually just, it's more productive. And until I get different direction from the board, that's probably the way that we'll continue to do those. Because there's, one entrance fee for the whole conference. That's how that's conducted. And then you can go to the educational sessions, symposiums, roundtables that you wish to go to.
We will continue to disagree on that line of thinking, but then that's fine. Some of these committees that we're flying across the country to be on, I think could be Zoomed and you could participate on that as well. I understand sitting around the dinner table and breaking bread and further discussions. I understand the value of that, but I just feel like it could save our county some money if so. At any rate, that's all. I value and appreciate your presentation today.
No, appreciate it. Thank you for the feedback.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Thank you for the presentation. I do think in person is important. On our steering committees, we do meet every month online, and with that many people on a Zoom meeting, it's actual chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trying to actually finally pass these resolutions and have those final discussions, I can't see any way to do it other than in person. But I appreciate all you do for NACO. You're everywhere all the time, and thank you for coming out.
You bet. Thanks for the invite.
Commissioner Casanelli.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Commissioner Hockaday.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. A lot of information there. I did attend the Western Interstate Regional in South Dakota.
Oh, good.
And I
you were on the bus.
Well, I made a vacation, so I didn't charge anybody. I just showed up, went up there and registered on my own, did everything on my own. A lot of things to do. I lived in South Dakota, so there's a lot of stuff to do.
Nice.
So
okay.
Definitely a lot of meetings there, and I kind of have to agree with Commissioner Jacobson. There were a lot of meetings that I attended that had the other commissioners or any commissioner in our state had a video of it. Would have been very informative about energy and fire control and things such as that. It just seems like we lose an opportunity by not having that information distributed to basically every commissioner in the state. So if we have an opportunity in the future to video some of those things and use current technology so that most of us can get that information as non-members of these organizations in NACO, it would certainly help out future.
Sure. And I mean, I look at how many people are zooming in today, and I don't feel like it's chaos, but I feel like they can't make it here in chambers, but yet they're participating, and I think that's just transparent. It's open, and so that's all. And at the end of the day, all travel is taxpayer money, and I'm that's just where I'm at. I apologize for my beliefs.
So I'll be last. I do want to make a couple comments. One thing is that I think there's a difference in when you belong to organizations. There's a difference between attending meetings and participating in meetings. And to me, it's if you just want to read an article, NACO publishes everything that we go to the meetings. It's in minutes. Anybody can attend a NACO meeting by any commissioner. It's a public meeting, so you can just attend. We have Zoom at our regular meetings and our other ones. But when it goes to steering committees, you have to have that communication locally with that person to be able to steer what's most important for your county. To sit at the table basically and not sit next to a screen. I would guarantee everybody on that screen wishes that they were sitting at this table on certain issues. And to me, that's the most important thing. The return on investment, I think, is huge. And sometimes you invest to get more out of it. So, like you see, we have a difference of opinion, but I'm very proud of what NACO does. I think it's the best ran organization in the state, and I think we benefit a lot out of the investment that we put into it. So I want to thank you very much for attending and give us a presentation.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 7, Commissioner County Manager reports. Start this time over to my right with Commissioner Hockaday.
Thank you, Chair Miller. A couple of things here. First, thank you to Principal Mattice there at Smith Valley School. We had kind of an update tour on campus there. Also, the Smith Valley Bulldogs basketball state championship was run, and they took first place. So it's fantastic there. Make it quick. Attended the Walker River Irrigation District meeting, the planning committee meeting, Smith Valley 4th of July committee meeting. Plan on having a big activity there on the 4th of July in Smith Valley. Also, the ordinance workshop, which all of us showed up to last Monday, the Smith Valley Historical Meeting for that society, and also the Smith Valley Valley Grove Cemetery Association meeting. So a lot of stuff going on in the district, and tried to catch as much as I could.
Thank you, Commissioner Casanelli.
Thank you, Chair. Attended the planning commission meeting via Zoom. Attended meeting with the Nevada Builder Alliance leadership. Met with the Legacy 49 developer for the project in Dayton. Attended the workshop. And attended the Campo board meeting. And in regards to Campo, we had a little under $2.2 million award of the federal surface transportation block grants, and those funds were appropriated to some Carson City RTC projects, but there is $953,000 left over that is available, and they're putting that out to Lyon County, Carson City, and Douglas to put forth some potential projects for that funding. And I'd like to get with County Manager Haskin, and I know $953,000 won't go a long way, but there's certainly some things we can do that has to be utilized in the Campo district, which is basically the Highway 50 corridor from Mount House through Dayton. And I know there's some things that we could probably get done with that. So I'd like to get together and put forth a few options, and that will be at the next Campo meeting next month. They'll be deciding what they want to do with that funding. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Casanelli. Commissioner Hendricks.
Yeah, our local extension representative put me in contact with a woman named Misha Allen. She's an extension educator, and she's been tasked with diving into everything data center, solar, and all of that. So I've been having weekly video calls with her, trying to learn as much as I can from her. Still attending the Rural Energy Academy. We're having yet another meeting today. I attended the Planning Commission via Zoom, and last night I attended the Carson Water Subconservancy District Board meeting.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you. Attended the Nevada Works meeting where I was in attendance, but the main group is basically identifying target groups, and who to support, with that organization. Attended the 25th City of Friendly Anniversary Planning Meeting, attended the Lyon County Planning Commission via Zoom. Want to give a shout out to the junior rodeo kids and the rodeo grounds, absolutely packed and friendly. Food establishments, hotels, etc., benefited from hosting that rodeo. Attended Monday the workshop for code enforcement permitting in Lyon County. I want to thank code enforcement for being there and presenting, also the planning department for their work and putting forth some suggestions and ideas, and listening in. So I appreciate those folks. And finally, being a volunteer, trying volunteer for a bunch of different things. But one of my most satisfying volunteers, been a hunter instructor for years. And we just finished up with another round of, I believe we had 22 kids go through. And I want to wish them all very much prosperity and good luck in the upcoming big game draw. So that's all I have.
I attended the Nevada Association of Counties Legislative Committee that met on Friday, March 6th. The NACO director kind of filled us in on that one, so I'll move on. Planning Commission, attended that, and then I attended the Fallon Range Training Complex Intergovernmental Executive Committee meeting. Issues were discussed on fair compensation for losing or decreasing grazing rights because of the base expansion. And that's pretty important to me, and in my opinion. It sets the standards for other projects on BLM land. Where ranchers are losing their grazing permits or reducing the amount of grazing permits. It can make whether they're losing a few AUMs, make it unfeasible to continue to have a ranching operation just by cutting it down to make it to where they have to produce so much beef to make it work, or sheep or whatever they do. There's a formula they follow. It's 1,000 pounds. AUM is animal unit month, and 1,000 pound cow with a calf is one. So there's kind of a formula that how much feed is out there. So if there's not enough feed, they cut it back a little bit. It makes it not right. They're talking about making them whole when it destroys their ranch of what they would have made off 100 years. So they use their generation of their next generation can move on. They could either buy a new farm, relocate, or start into a complete different industry because they're family ran businesses and they have to they can't just start over. So they're supposed to do a 100-year thing, and I think the settlements that they're coming forward with aren't very good for the ranchers. So there's a big discussion on that, but I think we got to stay on top of that, because same thing happens if people try to do stuff here on BLM lands, and if our farmers or ranchers, not farmers, but ranchers lose the ability to use that grazing land, then what do we get in return? What's the compensation? So hopefully it sets a precedent. It was also my honor to be the parliamentarian at the Republican County Convention held this last Saturday. And that's all I have. County Manager Haskin.
Good morning. I had to check and make sure it was still morning. Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Manager. Been super busy the last couple of weeks, but I just have a couple of things for the group today. One, just wanted to let you know that budget season is in full swing, and we've been meeting with, Comptroller Foley and I have been meeting with all the department heads to put together that budget and bring it forward here in a couple of weeks. I also had a meeting with NDOT and a developer in Dayton. It was just a coordination meeting trying to talk about project that they have going on and how it'll interact with other projects in the area. It was I think it was a good meeting. But you know, and NDOT's moving forward with their pavement preservation project, and there's just not enough time to get the improvements, change the way that the developer proposed. So more to come on that. And then finally, at the last meeting, I had talked about providing an update to the board as to where we're at with the congressional appropriations for this fiscal year. And so just wanted to give you that update. Overall, we had $3.2 million, a little over $3.2 million that were included in appropriations bills at the federal level for requests that we got or that we put in. So I'll just kind of run through those really quick. There was $90,000 included for the mobile crisis response vehicle. There was $375,000 for emergency backup generators. That was for one each at the 3 senior centers that don't have it, and one for this building. We tend to use those buildings in emergencies, and so you know, it became necessary to take a look at that. I don't know how many times we've had board meetings and the power was going on here, and we've had to wait till it came back on. So I'm excited to get that project rolling. We had $600,000 for the Mountain House Community Center project. We'll be taking a look at that. There's $240,000 for a generator project at one of our wells in Dayton that doesn't currently have backup power. And then $1.9 million for a manhole, sewer main and manhole rehabilitation project in Dayton. So I think most of the appropriations bills have passed, maybe except for I think Homeland Security is still working its way through, and a couple of those are in that. But I will keep the board updated on that. I do need to get you an update as to how much we've received since we started submitting appropriations requests. So far, I think that we've been really successful bringing in quite a bit of money back into the county. For this coming year, we've submitted about $6 million in appropriations requests, a little over almost $7 million. $6.7 million in appropriations requests. Really want to thank our congressional delegation, Congressman Amade, Senator Rosen, and Senator Cortez Masto for their support on these projects. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I got one question. On those appropriations, does that require match funding from the county?
It does, and so we are having to factor that into our upcoming budget.
And we're also, we applied for, we're going to be pushing forward with the lands bill.
Yes, yeah, that's something that I'm actively working on at the moment, and just working on trying to get one more meeting set up to try and get that moved forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bring us to elected officials report. Sheriff Pope.
Good morning, Lyon County Sheriff Brad Pope for the record. Figured to spend a minute, so give you a report. First, I want to recognize a few departments in Lyon County that we've been working close with. Taylor and Celeste from Emergency Management hosted and put on the Incident Command Active Shooter Training that a vast majority of the sheriff's office attended, and a lot of fire personnel, dispatch, etc., Yerington PD, and it was very well done. It's very informative training, and it gives our deputies and dispatchers the skills to have should we have the unfortunate incident of an active shooter here in Lyon County. So do appreciate that. Her team should be commended. They did a great job. Also, we implemented a new program called Resource Router. It's a artificial intelligence program that is a patrol application. It runs on our MDCs, and I'll tell you more about that, but I just wanted to thank Hazen Adams and his IT team for working so hard with the Resource Router program. to get that up and running for us. There's a lot of logistics that go into it behind the scenes. A lot of things with our cars that needed to be done, and him and his team worked their butts off to get that going for us. We're already seeing what that program does is focuses on crime suppression. So our deputies are in the field, and AI will take all the reports generated through our report management system and try and predict where a crime will be. So if we go there and no crime happens, it's going to tell us we suppressed it, but there's no way to quantify that. But we're operating on the Cooper curve right now through increased law enforcement presence. Crime suppression has been down. That's been quantified through our statistics. But we thought we would get a little more detailed approach to this, and so far the program's in its beginning stages, and we're working a few bugs out, but it seems to be going all right. So junior deputy programs are up in all the areas. That seems to be running good. The school district gave us a $20,000 grant so we could purchase uniforms for our junior deputies, equipment, and any other resources that we need. So we also appreciate that partnership with the school district. Just want to bring you up to speed on those things. We're still averaging about 30 arrests a week. Traffic stops are still up, response times are down. All normal stuff. Just want to give you a brief update.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thanks, Chair. Sheriff, did I read in the paper we're losing longtime police officer and his K-9 friend, or did I misread that?
I think you misread it. We just got a new one.
Oh, a gentleman didn't just retire after 25 years of service?
Not with us.
Huh.
Unless I'm missing something.
I thought I just read that in the Fernley Leader paper.
Unless the chief deputy told him something I'm unaware of. They get a new dog named Kilo, so it just started.
Roger that.
Any other questions or comments for the sheriff? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other elected officials reports? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to appointed officials reports.
Good morning, Taylor Ellison, Emergency Management Government Affairs Director. Sheriff Pope hit on it, but I just wanted to say thank you to all the agencies that participated in the active shooter incident management course that we put on last week. It was 3 days, 3 long days at the fairgrounds. We had 60 professionals, which maxed out the training. This is offered at no cost to us from the National Center for Integrated Emergency Response. I always forget the acronyms. But you get on a wait list of 200 plus agencies for these instructors from across the country to come out and provide these simulated courses along with real life active play. So we had Sheriff's Office, there were over 30 law enforcement professionals, Central Lyon Fire, Mason Valley Fire, Smith Valley Fire. Battle Born got a chance to utilize the helicopter simulators. So again, just thank all the agencies that played. It speaks to the caliber of the public safety professionals that we have here in our community and that we all work together. All of the instructors gave us great feedback. And they also shared that I have to pick on Carson City a little bit because we always get a hard time to the rules that they're always concerned we're not going to get enough people to fill the seats to offer the courses. And we had a full 60 house course offered, and Carson only had 32 in theirs. So go Lyon County. And again, I appreciate everyone that participated. It's great. And we hope we never have to do that, but at least we can work together in the future. So thank you.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Years ago, I was in my previous life was a principal, and we volunteered Fernley Intermediate School to do an active shooter training, and I got to tag along, and it is amazing how organized and how thorough they are in the training, critical of things, and if you have thin skin, probably. But man, it was, if you ever get a chance to view one of those active shooter trainings, it is impressive how well trained and the communication they have. And so thank you for hosting that and running it.
Any other comments? You can let Carson City know they're rural county too. We're a little bigger than them. Any other appointed officials? Seeing none in the room and none online, we'll close that and go on to advisory board reports. Seeing none in the room, is there any online? Seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda. Action will be taken on all items. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action and without an extensive hearing. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed and acted upon separately during the meeting. Does any member of the board want one pulled? Any pulled? Any member of the public want one pulled to be discussed? Seeing none in the room, none online, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items 11A through 11J.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, seconded by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Brings us back to the regular agenda, number 12, facilities for possible action. Award a bid to replace the asphalt in the parking lot at the Dayton Juvenile Probation Office to the lowest responsible bidder, JWC, in the amount of $55,656.30, and approve an additional $700 to be funded from a budget transfer from the general fund contingency. Facilities Director Doug Homestead.
Doug Homestead, Facility Director for record. We put $55,000 in our capital budget to do this project, which was got an estimate back in December of, or probably before that, of 24, and it's gone up. So, I mean, I need another $700 to do the project.
We have any questions or comments from the board?
I did have one small question. I noticed in here it said you're gonna use the existing base, and if the base is not present, that it'll be charged at the square footage price. Do we not know what the section is? Or are we just anticipating some shallow spots?
They tear it out.
So we don't know what's underneath there yet?
We're hoping it's space.
Yeah, okay.
You couldn't have talked him out of that $700? Negotiated?
That was a bid, so I hated it.
Yeah.
I think the attorney would say something to me.
Yeah. So any other comments? Is there any public comment?
Chair, I'll make a motion to award the bid to replace the asphalt in the parking lot at Dayton Juvenile Probation Office to the lowest responsible bidder, JWC, in the amount of $55,656.30. And prove an additional $700 to be funded from the budget transfer from the general fund contingency.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacobson, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Homestead. For possible action, accept the donation of a plaque from the local clampers organization honoring our veterans to be installed on the new flagpole monument at Hillcrest Cemetery. The Smith Valley CAB voted at their March 4th, 2026 meeting to recommend the BOCC accept this donation. Mr. Homestead.
Yeah, I wasn't at the meeting. Commissioner Huckabee probably knows more than I do, but the clampers, I did meet with the clamper guy out there the other day. I was at the cemetery and he was taking the measurements and everything. And they wanted to put this plaque up to honor the veterans. We're just asking to accept the donation. They didn't have a dollar amount to give me on it. It's gonna be a brass plaque like the clampers do around the world.
So do we have any questions? Comments?
Just that really appreciate the clampers stepping forward and taking care of paying for this plaque. And they're gonna take care of the entire situation, probably have a dedication of that plaque on Memorial Day. And as usual, you know, look a gift horse in the mouth, whatever it costs, and we're gonna put it in the cemetery for us in the veterans area.
Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation of a plaque from the local campers organization honoring our veterans to be installed on the new flagpole monument at Hillcrest Cemetery. The Smith Valley CAB voted at their March 4th, 2026 meeting to recommend the BOCC accept the donation.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, seconded by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to number 13, Clerk Treasurer. 13A for possible action, approve the purchase of additional election equipment for mobile ballot counting in the amount of $31,465.50 and authorize the county manager to sign budgetary quote an updated contract with Liberty Vote for the addition of the new equipment, increasing our annual licensing cost by $1,815. Clerk Treasurer Stacy Lindbergh.
Thank you. So I did a presentation for you guys back in August where I really didn't like these pieces of equipment. So since then, we have had a mock election where my team went and participated, as well as the clerk's team from Fernley. And they came back with some good input on the subject. So we've kind of been going back and forth. And some of my biggest concerns was the security and breaking the seals. So I put in the backup the two machines that were offered. And the top one is the one that I didn't like because of the security and having to break this open at the poll location, exposing ballots. But they have since come out with a new machine that's on the bottom of that picture that you guys have, where it would not require any seals be broken or any ballots to be handled on site. One of the biggest selling points for me was getting our results out quicker. That was the biggest hindrance on the way that I wanted to do it in order to bring all the ballots back here for counting. But this is kind of like a meet in the middle for all of us. It allows us to get that the ballots scanned on site, they're secured, it's sealed, it's transported, all in one big container versus breaking it or anything like that. So that made me a little more open to the subject. And I really didn't want to be the last county to report our findings after the election. That's a big contingency. So in that, I feel that I'll have the ballots back for auditing purposes so I can double check and make sure that the count went well. So I am moving forward with asking for some budget to purchase they're called ICP2s. They're basically mobile ballot printers, but the only, I guess, logistic thing we have is transportation, which I've discussed with the county and Andrew and needing a little more help in transporting that equipment. So I think at this time, one thing for the funding is the contingency funding that you guys awarded me back in August. We're actually going to get the majority of that funding back. That's why I went ahead and put the state calendar on your backup as well. They've decided to reimburse us for that election equipment, as well as these also. But until I get that money, I can't bank on it, but I think they're going to pay for both. And we kind of will have the best of both worlds now with the hard ballot boxes and these secured on-site ballot tabulators. So with that, I do ask you to allow me to purchase these new ones. I think it'd be important for our election sites. And I think that the secured top and being able to seal that and not breaking any seals kind of makes me more secure in that our ballots will be transported and handled properly.
Do we have any questions from the board? Comments? Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve the purchase of additional election equipment for mobile ballot counting in the amount of $31,465.50 and authorize the county manager to sign budgetary quote and updated contract with Liberty Vote for the addition of the new equipment, increasing our annual licensing cost by $1,815.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hendricks, second by Commissioner Hockaday. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Number 14, Comptroller, 14A for possible action, approving memorandum of understanding between the Nevada Administrative Office of the Courts, the Third Judicial District Court, and Lyon County for a new case management system for district courts. Comptroller Josh Foley.
Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. The existing software that the district court is on for their case management system has not ever been certified by the state, and it sounds like it's not going to be certified by the state. So the district court's been in consultation with the administrative office of the courts for the Supreme Court. They are rolling out for the justice courts a brand new software, upgraded version of what they have. The district court can go onto that same software. It will be seamless, or a lot more seamless with our existing courts when cases move up from the justice courts to the district court. Also, the administrative office of the courts is going to pay for all of the data transfer and programming in between the existing system to that one, which if we went to our own new system, we would have to pay for. And the annual licensing costs that we pay are going to be very similar to what we're paying now for the existing software. So it's a upgrade for us, and the state's picking up the implementation cost for us.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Nevada Administrative Office of the Courts, the Third Judicial District Court, and Lyon County for a new case management system for district court.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Hendricks, seconded by Commissioner Jacobson. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to utilities for presentation only. An update on the recent and ongoing activities related to the effluent disposal capacity of the Aspen Creek Rapid Infiltration Basins. Utilities Director Sean Sinclair.
Morning, Sean Sinclair, Utilities Director for the record. Just wanted to come before you and give you an update on the work we've been doing at the Aspen Creek rib site. Since our previous meeting on September 4th, I actually have a little bit of a color issue, a little box over there, green, orange, or I'm not sure what color it is, where it says test site. What we want to do is we want to identify a site that we can potentially construct a new rib to help free up some additional capacity. So what we're doing is basically a massive infiltration test at that location right there over the next 3 to 6 months, and I'll describe kind of how we got to that point in the next slide. On December 17th, myself, the county manager, met with NDEP to kind of explain our thinking, what we wanted to do there, and construct this infiltration test to kind of vet out whether we could put a new rib on the existing site. We have the existing area. We'd like to put another rib there to start with because we already own the property. So, but before we get too far ahead, it's doing our due diligence to make sure that we don't, possibly create any adverse effects to the existing ribs. We don't want to mess with the performance of those existing ribs. On January 13th, staff commenced excavating the infiltration test pits, approximately 100 by 245 by 3 foot deep. The next slide here is just a picture so you can see the scope of what we did there. The crews excavated that site out in about a week. We rented a piece of equipment, that's our Dustin Road Department's dozer. Loader. He let us use that for this. Rented that track hoe and started excavating. Next slide, please. NDEP coordination. So we met with them in December, but we didn't want to file to get the temporary discharge permit until we were basically ready to start discharging, because it's a temporary permit. It's only good for 6 months. The state was really great to work with. They issued us we submitted the application on February 19th. We received the permit on February 26th. And the temporary discharge permit is good for 6 months, and that would expire on August 29th, 2026. this is just a copy of that permit. So we have it in the file, so we're all good to go there. I don't know if this will play or not, just a short video. This was last Thursday, actually right about this time, showing us. One thing I'll note there, and some of you were with Stephanie and her crew, they've been working on the rolling A expansion, and I want to highlight the quality of that effluent going into that pit is you would you'd think you'd go swimming in that. It's crystal clear, and that's a testament to the wastewater crew. Next slide, please. So staff will discharge the effluent into the infiltration test basin over the next 3 to 6 months to collect data that will assist in evaluating the feasibility of developing a new rib in that area. If the data collected supports development in this area, staff will prepare and propose a project to construct a new rib, which I'm calling new rib 4. We don't really, so a lot of this, number one, see if it works too. Stephanie and her crew are monitoring it daily, the flow we're sending in there, what the infiltration rate is. The idea is to put as much as we can in there, try to create the water mound that we've talked about in the past, and then start backing up the numbers with engineering. Again, one, to see if it supports it. Two, and make sure we have no adverse effects to the existing ribs, because we certainly don't want to create a bigger problem than we already have going there. Next slide, please. That's the end of my presentation. I'm sure there'll probably be some questions, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Jakes.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. Thank you, Chair. So you dug this test pit out and you left just native soil on the, you didn't bring in rock or anything that.
Native material to see, because that would be what's going to be in the actual, it's kind of what we would be using and utilizing. So we just wanted to get down to that level where we could put a certain amount of effluent into that. And again, it is effluent, it's not potable water, so we're just shifting some of that water over to that site.
So just for curiosity, let's see, hit a clay layer. Would you normally take out a clay layer? Yeah.
Yeah. So if this was a good, and what we did is we went back and looked at old boring logs to find the best suitable site that was kind of representative of the whole area, because we couldn't excavate in theory it could be a 16-acre rib. So we don't have the horsepower to dig that right now, so we wanted to find the most representative area to do this test to give us the best data we have or we can get, so we can propose or show or cross that off the list and move on to the next spot.
Right on. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
And your crew.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to swim in that pond.
Yeah, don't go.
Duck hunting. Commissioner Hendricks.
If it is suitable and you're able to build another rib there, how much capacity would that get you?
There was a preliminary report by Atkins that showed potentially, and it was a preliminary, about 300 to 350,000 gallons on a 16-acre rib and that site right there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you for the update. And when they construct these ribs, I know you're excavating it down to the bottom depth, but you actually go down and perforate through hard pan or the clay or anything below that level?
And so the test logs that are in this area shows us that could be a favorable site. If there is stuff in, or if there is layers like you described in there, the idea would be to either remove those, over X them. If they're very deep, there's really no way to get those out, potentially with some kind of boring rig. But similar to the other ribs, we did have over excavation areas that had clay layers that we removed. And that would be similar in this location.
Good. Commissioner Hockaday.
Thank you for the presentation. We've got the 3 ribs there and they didn't really live up to expectation. With the 4th rib, how do we come up with a number that's similar to what the other 3 were supposed to do with our 4?
Yeah, so that's why we're running the test to kind of get a ballpark figure of what the amount we could put into that rib. So it's basically just moving over to another site, seeing how much we can put in there. But what we did with the original ribs, they were basically kind of the same idea, but just smaller infiltration tests, and they actually performed well. But what's happened is over time that mound came up. So we're trying to recreate the situation we have with the other 3 to see. We would imagine it'll never be a 500,000, 600,000 gallon rib, but to really see what it is and see if there is value there to move the project forward. to install a rib to see if there is any value to free up additional capacity.
But if it works as we hope, then do we kind of get close to that potential that we were hoping for with the other three?
It would probably get us to the 700,000 to 800,000 range for a total.
Like
So it'd
78,
still be short.
this should be short, maybe 20%.
Yeah, 20, 30, depending on how this one shakes out. So it still wouldn't reach its ultimate capacity on the entire site.
Yeah.
But we do have additional land out there. So the thinking is if this is successful, take that same methodology, move over to another site that's identified. This is the biggest one, but then we'll start getting the smaller ones and, you know, utilize as much of that land that we have there to our benefit.
Thank you.
How much do you go into like a computer program that allows for to figure out exactly how much you lose for evaporation?
I'd have to defer to whichever engineer we end up using on this. But what we are doing is Stephanie Herc, we're gonna compile all that data. We'll provide it to the engineering firm and then they'll put that in their models.
Cause such a big spot, one cloud could screw that.
Yeah.
Up pretty good. So I was just wondering if it was a computer thing.
Yeah, they
by the minute and.
So we have additional well sites out there monitoring wells, so we kind of have a better idea of what the groundwater is doing in there. So they'll plug all that information into that model and then our infiltration test and come up with a capacity that again would either be a value to construct the rib or cross it off the list and move on to plan D.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to recess to convene as the Silver Springs General Improvement District Board. Public participation. No action will be taken on any item unless it's properly agendized. Do we have any public comment? Do we have any online? Okay, we'll go to utilities 17A for possible action to consider a petition by NBLCO, Lyon County LLC, to enlarge the boundaries of the Silver Springs General Improvement District sewer service area to include APN 015091115 and to authorize the board chair to sign an order to incorporate the property. Utilities Director Sean Sinclair.
Morning, Sean Sinclair, Utilities Director for the record. NBLCO Lyon County LLC is the owner of APN 0150915 and is petitioning the Board of County Commissioners to include this parcel into the Silver Springs General Improvement District sewer service area. It was published in the Mason Valley Leader News on March 4th and March 11th. If the service area is expanded to include this parcel, the petitioner will need to purchase sewer connections, EDUs, equivalent dwelling units, in accordance with the rules and regulations of the General Improvement District. A couple things I'd like to add is this project is a domestic waste only. No industrial flows are proposed to come from this site. We did the developer, we have what's called a discovery investigation that will allow them to kind of get in front of a project before it's submitted. Basically to make sure there's going to be no adverse effects to our system, or maybe there's something on their end they would need to construct. That report was completed with Dow on September 29th, 2025 and showed no adverse effects to our system. The peak flow they're proposing right now is 6,825 gallons peak flow. Yeah, that's about it. And the applicant is here as well.
Do we have any questions from the board?
The peak flow was a day or an hour?
That day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Bring it back to the board for motion.
Move to approve a petition by NBLCO Lyon County LLC to enlarge the boundaries of the Silver Springs General Improvement District sewer service area to include APN 0150911-15 and to authorize the board chair to sign an order to incorporate the property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, but I do have a question before we go to the vote. I probably should have asked earlier. When we incorporate an area like this, does that include other portions that aren't part of this, or up to that project?
No, it would just be that parcel.
So we could have a sewer line going up to there. But the other ones have to,
And this particular project, if I'm tracking with you, this project basically has the sewer main ends at the front door of this parcel.
okay. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Is there any public comment? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hendricks. Who seconded?
I did.
Second by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 17B for possible action, approve an agreement with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection Board for financing water projects to receive a grant in the amount not to exceed $592,920 for the Silver Springs GID wastewater plant filter rehabilitation project and authorize Lyon County Comptroller to execute the agreement. Comptroller Foley.
Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. This is grant money that the utilities went after to receive for this from the state. And the reason it's having the comptroller sign the agreement is all of the financial documents throughout the entire project have to be signed by a single person, and we didn't want to burden the chair or whomever, and thought it might be easier just to have the comptroller do all of that. So I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
It could be more timely too. Any questions? Comments? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back for a motion.
I move to approve an agreement with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection Board for financing water projects to receive a grant in the amount not to exceed $592,920 for the Silver Springs GID wastewater plant filter rehabilitation project and authorize the Lyon County Comptroller to execute the agreement.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Casanelli. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Brings us back to public participation. We're actually taking on any item until it's properly agendized. Do we have any public comment?
Jim DeChambeau. And going back to comments you made earlier about the data centers and the loss of grazing land. Is this board ever going to take a stance on the excess wild horses in Nevada that are 300% over AML and are also hurting our grazing and our game and our water? I think that's as critical as anything else.
Any other public comment?
Robin Biggs for the record. The Snyder Lane and Osborne Road down there where there does need to be some rumble sticks, and maybe they can bring in a sheriff's car that isn't running, sit down there somewhere, try to slow that traffic down and get a sign out there. I talked earlier about how I took a little trip around the valley and I was scared spit was going on that road. There's even on the north side of that road, there were maybe migrant workers working, and they were moving around and they were stepping out into the field, like kind of unaware of the traffic. So as Mr. DeChambeau has mentioned, he wants something done before something tragic happens. We're talking about life. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board, adjourn to reconvene as the Lyon County Board of Commissioners. Number 19, agenda request. I'll start with Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, at some point it'd be nice to hear from our senators' offices, representatives' offices at a meeting. I understand we get to talk to them back in Washington DC, but it'd be good to have at least a representative from their office come in and speak to us. Seems like it's been a while.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Yeah, I'd like to see if we can get on the agenda to have Misha Allen from Extension come and give a presentation on data centers and solar.
Commissioner Casanelli.
None at this time.
Commissioner Hockaday.
Nothing.
And I have none for right now. Commissioner comments. I'll start back on the other side. Commissioner Hockaday.
Been an interesting meeting. A lot of good information out there, so about it. Thank you.
Commissioner Casanelli.
Nothing more to add. Thank you.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Nope.
Commissioner Jacobson. And I don't have anything to add, so we'll go on to another public participation. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. Do you have any public participation? Seeing none, we'll go on to adjourn. It is 11:59 and we're adjourned, and we do have a closed session.